something that really pisses me off and annoys me in fishing, and I'm gonna get into trouble because I'm going to start some shit again, but whatever, it's just the way it works. And if you watch this channel, that's part of the reason you watch this channel, because I don't give a there you go, beep that out. So one of the things that pisses me off is kind of like saying that one bait will work forever. Like one bait is the bait, the only bait that works, and that's all you need. But rarely is that the case. Like one lure of one brand is like the only thing. That's like the old, like the Bassmaster Classic videos and stuff when the pros would be like, bro, I caught them all on a Zoom lizard, and it's the only lizard that'll work. It's like, what do you think, we're dumb? Like, really, dude? Like, come on, really? Really? So for that reason, I want to call out Z-Man on an absolutely, now here's the deal, I'm gonna give them 100% credit because it is an absolutely killer marketing campaign. If you go and look, I think it's on their Facebook page, but they got like this video, like, will the real Ned please stand up? A little play off Eminem, you know, will the real, what is it, the real Slim Shady please stand? Like, it's pretty creative marketing, dude. And then they got a bunch of like standard like Ned worms and stuff like laying on the bottom of a pool, and then their TRD stand. A very creative marketing, 100% points on that. But one of the misconceptions about a Ned is that it needs to stand up, or the only way to get it to stand up is a floating thing. So in this video, what we're gonna do is I shot some underwater stuff. And all right, before anybody gives me a bunch of crap down in the comments box, like, I'm simply being critical and offering different perspectives. If you have a perspective, drop it down in the comments box, dude. Like, say your piece. I'm just, yeah, like, it's about different perspectives. I don't want to hear no trolly crap about like the TRD float. Yes, everybody knows it floats. It's obvious. So what we're gonna do is I shot some underwater video of a few different baits that I like to use on a Ned, and I'm gonna show you why they have value. Because not one bait is the right bait to throw, ever. Don't let anyone ever tell you that, ever. So now that I got all aggressive, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. You're gonna enjoy this video, I promise. Watch it. Let's go check this stuff out. Fuck, can we have a pool party? Can we have a pool party? Come along. So I looked at a few different baits underwater. I looked at a TRD, Z-Man TRD. These are the TRD Craws, Demiki Stinger, one of my favorites, a 7-inch fat ace, and then a Gambler fat ace, just like that. Yeah, just like the standard baits that I've used to catch fish on a Ned, and the Neds that I use to kind of test stuff. I got a Nichols, I think that's like the quarter, or just under a quarter, like a 3/16, maybe, no, it's under that. And then my new Power Ned from Gambler Lures, the screw lock, 3/8 ounce on that one. I use that for the bigger stuff, and then I use the Nichols for the smaller baits. But here's kind of what I found interesting. So first off, what I did is I looked at some of the Z-Man stuff. So I looked at the Finesse TRD. I put that on the Nichols smaller head. And yes, it did sometimes like stand up, or at least 45 when I danced it around. But it didn't stand up all the time. Now, I'm not critiquing that. Maybe I need to use a different jig head to make it like work perfect all the time. But it didn't stand up all the time. This one, on the other hand, though, was like absolutely stellar at standing up. This is the TRD Craws. Put that on the 1/4 ounce head again, this guy right here. And that thing actually looked, I'm gonna throw these more because it looked awesome underwater. You guys can see the underwater footage. Like, it stood up and the claws were just kind of like, ah! It looks very cool underwater. But here's the misconception part that I wanna get to, because I have some more underwater footage to show you guys. But a lot of guys are like, the only, you know, Ned head that you can ever use is like one with a TRD that stands, okay, like, that's really cool. But the thing is there's different kinds of actions you can get from different baits, and that's what I really found interesting. So the biggest theme across this, and you can probably see it with the fat ace right here. We put the fat ace on that, I believe it was the 3/8 ounce head, or I can't remember, the quarter of the 3/8. But when you use a stick bait on a Ned, what actually happens is that joker, well, when you're hopping it along, it'll actually like stand up for a second. Like when you get it right on the head, so you're hopping it, and you get it right on the head, it'll stand up for a second, but it does this really cool deal where it just lays down. And I think that's why a stick bait, like on a magnet especially, like a 6-inch, this is a 6-inch fat ace, I think that's why it gets bites, because it has this secondary action that just kind of, almost like when you use, you know, everybody says you got to use a Yamamoto Senko when you're like skipping docks or fishing a wacky rig weightless, because it has that extra salt so it sinks. I think that's kind of part of the reason that the fat ace actually works, or an ace or a stick bait works on a net head, because it lays down gradually, which is kind of an undulating action, as you can see from some of the underwater stuff. I found that to be true too with the debunking stinger. This guy would actually like stand up, and it did quiver a whole bunch, kind of like what we've talked about in other videos where that tail just kind of shakes. But I guess the one thing that I'm trying to note is with the Ned, a lot of these soft plastics, although they don't stand up for the entire time that you just dead stick it on the bottom, which at least I don't dead stick it for 30 to 60 seconds, maybe you guys do, but what they do is they have a different kind of action. So for instance, they lay down, or they're laying down on the side, and they'll shake differently when you're like twitching the Ned. The other thing that I kind of found interesting too is when these things hit like a piece of cover, or like, so when the sticker is being dragged along the bottom, and say it like runs into like a little rock or a tree or something, it goes to a standing position just based upon that mushroom Ned head that you're using. So that's another thing that I'm not disagreeing with the fact that the TRD has a lot of value because it stands up, but the fact that I can catch a bunch of fish on standard plastics on a Ned rig goes to show you that there's different times to use different things, you know, or different things can work. It's not all just one theory. One thing I did find super duper interesting though, moving to this is the 7-inch fat ace. So when I do this on a Ned rig, let me show you, it's right actually down here. I have it set up so I cut it down like right around the worm sack right there. You can see that one right there. And then you just thread it on. It's kind of like an awesome like Mondo kind of bait deal. But what was really interesting about this joker is this joker floated up a little. I don't know if it's because of the injection process on the tail, or if it's a specific like tail process, because this is tail color. It's black with a blue tail. I don't know if that has to do with the plastic consistency or something, but like this joker floated. Like it was sitting down there like tail up like that. And I've caught a massive amount of massive bass throwing a magnet style like worm like this, like a 7-inch fat ace. So I'm wondering if that has something to do with it on some of these bigger, bulkier plastics. If they don't have a huge amount of salt in them, I'm wondering if the bigger, bulkier plastics actually float up a little bit better. And that's why I've been able to have such success with at least the bigger stuff. You know, the more plastic, not a whole bunch of salt, but they'll actually like float up and tip up. But that was probably the most interesting part of the process that I found, is that mag one stands up. But the other thing that I kind of saw, and it's something that you really want to keep in mind during your retrieves, I usually will like drag a Ned. You know, I don't hop it a whole bunch, but when I had it in the pool on all these baits, whether it was the Z-Man, the TRD, the debunking, the Stinger, any of these guys, what I noticed is when you actually hop it and give it a little like pop, it darts like it darts up, which looked really cool. So it darts up, and when it comes down, it is standing just like that. And then it'll either like lay down, or if it's like that craw thing, it stays standing, or like this guy will stay standing. But sometimes what I actually personally liked is, let's see, when I took the fat ace or the Stinger, not the 7-inch fat ace, but I would hop those jokers, and like I said, they would just kind of lay down. And the other thing too that I was thinking too is when it hits a piece of cover and stands up and lays down. And so basically what I'm trying to say is, like, think about your retrieve when you're doing Ned bait or Ned rig fishing, because when you're running that jig into it, it's causing it, especially if you're using a standard plastic, it's causing the bait to stand up or do different things. You can also cause the bait to stand up and kind of change the look of it by hopping it. If you look at some of this underwater video that I got, I found that really interesting. I didn't know it had such an effect, because I'm always side kind of slow dragging. And this is really going to cause me to do a little more hopping in my retrieve, maybe put the rod at a 45 and pop that tip, because I'm always just dragging it super slow. I obviously want to change that up. The gist of this deal is there's no 100% right way or wrong way to do something. I like playing with different plastics on my Ned rigs. I've even used like burner craws. I've used small creature baits. In the end, and we've talked about it in past videos, it just needs to be like a streamlined, sort of almost like straight presentation. Ironically, almost kind of like what we talked about with the chatterbait trailers underwater. But I just want to throw that out there. Z-Man makes great stuff. Don't get me wrong. And their marketing campaign for Will the Real Ned Please Stand Up, awesome. But I wanted to show you guys a look underwater what other stuff looks like, because in the end, if everybody's using one style of thing, then actually using something different that maybe doesn't behave in the way it's supposed to, but behaves in a different way, might give you the edge when it comes to high pressured waters and catching bass that other people aren't. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. If you want to throw me some hate or some constructive criticism, drop it down in the comments box. I always like to hear it. All right, high five. Give everybody a high five. All right, good bug. Thank you guys for watching. Tight lines, and we'll see you out on the water.